On today's show, we have the latest from practice today and what was Giannis able to do. We've got quotes from Mike Budenholzer and then just generally more panic stuff. We know the Bucks are down 2-1, but how concerned should we be? What do we think is going to happen in Game 4? If the YouTube comments have anything to go with it, I would say that the panic is at a reasonable level amongst Bucks fans. So let's talk about
it. You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Bucks. My name's Kane Pittman. You can see and hear me on this show Monday to Friday and on weekends during the postseason for post-game shows, and also find my work over at ESPN. Alongside me from the Bucks Radio Network, unfortunately on the broadcast for this Game 3 disaster is Justin Garcia. We'll get into that a little bit more. And by the way, Game 4, Monday night, 6:30 p.m. Central Time tip-off. I believe the radio broadcast will start at about 6, about 30 minutes before that. You can catch it all on the Sirius XM radio. Just download the SXM app, search for Bucks, and you'll find that broadcast with Dave Kane and Justin Garcia. So make sure you do that for tomorrow. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. That's prizepicks.com, promo code Locked On. Now, we thank everyone for making Locked On Bucks your first watch or first listen and getting involved in the show, because that is what is driving us right now, particularly in the postseason. As we mentioned, a disappointing Game 3. So the YouTube comments were vibrant. There was some real frustration, all the usual stuff, the fire bud, the Bucks stink, all that kind of stuff, which come after a loss, which we do love. We love the passion. So we appreciate the support for the show. Make sure you subscribe, drop a like, drop a comment, and let us know how you're feeling ahead of Game 4. Now, Justin, I'm going to get to what you went through on the Bucks radio broadcast in the post game, because I do like, getting a feel for where the fan base is at. And I think once you get to the postseason, everything is elevated. Every loss feels like the end of the world. And certainly right now for the Bucks, there is good reason to feel pessimistic or frustrated or annoyed based on what we've seen all season long. But you gotta keep it together a little bit. We did get one fan, and we've spoken about the seeming dislike for Chris Middleton among a section of the Bucks fans, which is frustrating. Someone commented on YouTube and said, "Can someone please tell me the last time the Bucks won a game with Chris Middleton in the lineup and Giannis not playing?" I was like, yeah, 3 days ago. So that's a temperature check of how things were going. But how was it on the broadcast and certainly in the postgame?
On the broadcast, the tough part was this one kind of felt like you were getting dental work done and there was no Novocaine, where you kind of had to tell the dentist hey, you got to knock me out here. I'm feeling everything you're doing. That's what the second half felt like. The way the game started, it was everything that you hoped for, and then it was at the 4:30 mark or so of that first quarter where the wheels just entirely fell off. And I remember looking up thinking man, this feels like a pretty big run. And then the notification comes through of 19-0 run. You're like, that's more than I thought it was, but okay, the score checks out. And it was, it was one thing after another. I know you talked about that closing sequence there, and the way the Bucks closed the half too, I think was the more frustrating part. Is despite that 19-0 run and the way things were going, you still felt like, okay, we've kind of seen this script before in the postseason. And as long as you can get this to a 2-possession game or get it to 7 going into halftime, I feel pretty good about where the Bucks are at. And then you have that sequence of, Jay Crowder again, just can't find his offense. And it leads to, I think it was a Caleb Martin 3 on the other end. And it felt like you were kind of climbing the hill and then you just slipped. And before you knew it, it was 13 again at halftime. And I don't think, if memory serves, they never got back to single digits after that. It seemed like it was routinely 12 or 13 for most of that second half. So it was a tough thing to experience in real time, especially as, it's not like fans that can get frustrated and turn it off. We're stuck with it. And the post game too, the thing that I asked our audience was basically, look, this is obviously not ideal, but on a scale of 1 to 10, how concerned are you with what we've seen here? And I kind of felt like you'd still be close to 50-50 of a decent amount of Bucks fans that were saying, we should still win this. And I'm a little discouraged, but I'm at a 5 or a 6. there was a lot of 8s and 9s, and I think 110, which I can't imagine what those numbers will be if this ends up being a 3-1 deficit.
Exactly right. It's not absolutely do or die just yet, but it certainly feels like everything is elevated and everything is heightened. People do get frustrated from time to time that they might say I'm a little bit too optimistic. You mentioned the going to the dentist and Novocaine. So Locked On Bucks is like listening to Novocaine Pittman. You try and make yourself feel better. I'm not sure it actually does anything, and it might only be very temporary, but we're going to see what we can do on this show. Where are you at, though? Where are you at out of 10? Because, let's be honest. And I spoke about the journey because we view this team and we say, okay, well, are you going to win a title? So you hope that you're not in the first round already facing this scenario where you're like, is this about to be over within a few days after we were hoping that you've got a 2-month run ahead of you?
Well, first of all, I mean this. I mean no disrespect here, and I think very highly of Frank, and I think he knows that. But I think it's the perfect yin and yang. If you're too positive, then you have Frank to offset it.
Yeah, someone's going to bring it up.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm podcasting with Frank tomorrow for the everydayers. I know you'll be back for the post-game show. Frank will be here. And trust me, no one more than me hopes that the Bucks will win that game because it is going to be rough if they don't.
I guess I'm at I would be somewhere between 6 and 7 because I still, maybe it's just optimism and blind faith. I still feel like they're going to win the series. And we should point out, I haven't checked, but I would assume Victor Oladipo. I didn't see if there was an update. I would assume Victor Oladipo
terrible
playing again. And you may kind of scoff at that, but all of a sudden that's a very thin backcourt. And, guys like Gabe Vincent, who had 2 big games against the Bucks this season, but Heat fans would be the first to tell you he hasn't been great this season. He may have to play a lot, and you may need something from him. What Duncan Robinson did in the fourth quarter of game 2 and then carried over into game 3, they're going to have to hope that translates into game 4 and onward too, because Victor Oladipo, again, he's not a guy that's going to take over a game at this point in his career, but it did seem like he was starting to kind of turn the corner. Didn't play at all in game 1, played, I think, 25 minutes in game 2 and started to find his shot and was able to attack in game 3 as well. So it's certainly not Jimmy Butler. It's not to the level of Tyler Hero, but it's still a big loss for the Heat in terms of their backcourt depth. But I still feel like the Bucks will win this game just based off not even the 25 threes, but what we saw in game 2. And it's kind of the same conversations that we had 2 years ago in the playoff run, where you would see that glimpse of, okay, just do this and you'll win. And the Bucks would do it, and then it would revert the next game, and then they would do it again, and then it would revert. This team has played well with their back against the wall. The big thing is you don't want your back against the wall in the first round, especially when you're the 1 seed in all of the playoffs. So when I say somewhere between 6 and 7, it's not necessarily for this series, although it does raise your eyebrow a bit. It's more so of, as you said, we thought this was going to be a longer playoff run. And based off what we've seen here, I don't know how you can confidently say, I feel pretty good about the Bucks matching up on either of those 2 teams on the other side of the bracket.
Yeah, we spoke about the fourth quarter in game 2 and giving guys confidence. And there's been a lot of talk, particularly in the YouTube comments again, as we get feedback from the fans, because we've discussed the depth of these 2 teams. As you pointed to, on paper, and by the way, over an 82-game sample size, you would say the Bucks were by far the deeper team. But I didn't come into this series thinking that all of a sudden you're going to get Duncan Robinson and Victor Oladipo going off in game 3 and the Heat win the game. I mean, based on what we've seen all season, that hasn't been the case. But, hey, it's the postseason, and in a short series, it's guys that can step up, and they did. And obviously it looks like Oladipo is not going to play now. That is genuinely sad. I wouldn't necessarily want him to go off on the Bucks, but you just want to see him playing basketball. So that really did suck. And clearly you could see the Heat bench was impacted or, affected by that as well. But we need to get the biggest injury story of this series, and one that just is getting a little bit strange for mine. Giannis, we got the update from practice. So I want to talk about Giannis and everything that we heard today with quotes from Mike Budenholzer coming right up after we talk about our friends at Prize Picks. If you don't know how Prize Picks works, it's pretty simple. You can pick 2 to 6 players, and then based on whether they go over or under their projected for points, rebounds, steals, assists, blocks, all those types of things, you can win up to 25 times your money. So for the Bucks, difficult times if you're trying to get the over on Brook Lopez points because are they going to go to him down low? Is he going to dominate offensively like he did in game 2? Certainly you hope so if you're a Bucks fan, but you got everything you need on Prize Picks, and it doesn't have to be NBA. It can be baseball, soccer, golf, college sports, everything you need. Disc golf, it says here. Cricket, I'm sure we've got lots of cricket fans watching Locked On Bucks, so download the Prize Picks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. If you deposit 100, they'll give you 100. Deposit 50, you'll get 50. Don't forget to enter the promo code Locked On at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. That's at Prize Picks. 6:30 p.m. Central Time tip-off for Game 4. Make sure you catch Dave Kane, Justin Garcia on the Bucks hometown broadcast. You can hear that on SiriusXM Radio. Download the SXM app, search for Bucks, and you'll be able to find that. Coverage starts from 6 p.m. Central Time there. So listen to our guy Justin on the radio broadcast if you're not in front of a TV. Or maybe you just can't bear to watch it right now and you just need the audio in the ears. All right, let's get to Giannis. So I discussed this a little bit yesterday. I said we're going to have an update from practice. And, if I think back to literally this time a week ago or 6 days ago, 7 days ago, after game 1, Bucks lost, which, unfortunate, but we've had to do a few too many of those in the last few days. And I was really confident that Giannis was going to play because if you go back to the initial report that we got from Mike Budenholzer at practice, it seemed really optimistic. In fact, I'm pretty sure Bud used the word optimistic when it came to Giannis. Now, I thought he was going to play game 2. He didn't. I said, okay, well, they took care of business. Game 3. Now, there's this sense that were the Bucks just being cautious? Did they think they could get away with it? I don't know. It's hard for me to believe that that's the case because this is a guy who has played through everything. And again, the Bucks have to be looking at things through a lens of winning the title and playing for the next 6 weeks. Giannis is banged up with a bunch of different injuries, but you also have to take care of business right now. And they are 2-1 down. And it's not a win or go home situation, but it is very, very, very close. So if Giannis doesn't play in game 4, I'm officially sounding the significant alarm bell and saying that it is time to basically consider that this is something more than what has been given away. Now, at practice today, Mike Budenholzer said that Giannis was limited, did some individual stuff, but still hasn't done a lot with the full team. But it's a postseason. You're playing every other day. I doubt that they did a lot anyway, even though they're based in Miami. He said, we'll continue to monitor him. He did some individual work on the court. We'll see how he feels from the session today and see how he wakes up tomorrow. I think the medical group, myself, John Horst, Giannis just have to feel like he's in a place where he can play. It's a little bit of everything. When we make a decision, whether he's in or out, we'll let you know. But we'll just continue to monitor him. And he went on to say some other words that don't mean a whole lot. But where are you at with this? Because, yeah, we are within 24 hours, for me, from either saying, okay, I don't know when maybe he's not going to be back for a while, or he'll get out and play and hopefully look somewhere like himself.
I'm with you. I thought he was going to play in game 2. And the way Bud talked after game 2, I kind of assumed he was going to be back for game 3. And it was just a matter of, we had 2 days off in between game 1 and 2. We get another 2 days off. So he's got close to a full week between games, 6 days. That was kind of we think will do the trick and he'll be ready to go for game 3. So when he didn't play in game 3 is when it was kind of like, this seems very serious. And I know yesterday there was a decent amount, and you just touched on it too, of Bucks fans that kind of pushed back and thought that this was maybe the organization being too cute and saying, well, we think we can beat the Heat even without Giannis, so let's just sit him. I don't believe that to be the case. I don't know anything further than that, but I'll just say, I mean, we know Giannis's competitive spirit. If you're not playing in a playoff game, it's serious, that it's not just a matter of, well, let's take it easy here. Especially when this is a series, it looks like it's going to be a dogfight in a 1 versus 8. So if Giannis does not play in game 4 here tomorrow, I don't want to jump to conclusions, but it's obviously something very significant at that point. And I think you would have to question will we even see him in this series? And I know Somebody asked me, a few people had reached out and asked too, like, hey, do you think Giannis is going to play tomorrow? Or do you know anything? I obviously don't, because this organization likes to keep things close. I hate to even speculate, but I don't know. It just to me, I'm kind of approaching it assuming he is not going to play. And if he does play, great. That's hopefully a shot in the arm. But I think that's kind of what you have to do at this point.
Well, Optimus Pittman is going to come through. He's playing tomorrow. I have to believe it, but I'm going to be doing what I did before Game 3. I'll be up all night here in Australia waiting for some kind of update. Look, I still have some confidence based on what we've seen about this team in responding to really disappointing performances. Like, I have confidence that they can find their way out. But if they go down 3-1, then, it is going to be difficult to see how they win 3 in a row, including 1 on the road, even though 2 of the 3 would be at home. And we do think they're a different team. They've been one of the better home court teams all season long. I don't think...
As long as it's not a long layoff, we should add that caveat. That seems to be the hang up.
But I don't think that the Bucks would be silly enough, and I don't think that they would sit back and have the conversation with Giannis and say, "Hey, it's only Miami. We'll win." I can't bring myself to believe that. Like, that just seems outrageous.
Right, and I will. And look, I mean, it's all speculation, and we're all taking the 10,000-foot view of it, but I think we all did kind of notice too the very rare instances of when you saw Giannis on the sideline, and there was the sequence where they showed him kind of coaching Drew Holiday and talking him through some defensive stuff and what he was seeing. I mean, you could see Giannis was not very comfortable, and as somebody that's dealt with back issues as well, I mean, that's nothing to really take lightly. And it's one of those things too that you can't really put a timetable on. If you could be fine in a day or two, or it could be, hey, I can barely move and I'm fine for 15 minutes or 20 minutes, and then I'm on the floor and I got to stretch it. So I think that's really the biggest thing is, with the wrist issue, it's obviously suboptimal to be dealing with a wrist issue on your shooting hand. But as we heard earlier, it was, it's going to come down to pain tolerance and what can he put up with. And if that's the case, and especially in the playoffs, it's, Giannis can definitely do that. But when it's a back, I mean, it comes down to everything in the game, how you bend, how you move, your lateral quickness. And if that's shot, what type of player is Giannis even going to be if he's able to get out there? But I think the big issue is he probably can't, just in terms of his range of movement.
Yep, it's going to be fascinating leading into this game here. And just for, again, the bigger picture view, and I say it again, the Bucks have a hell of a lot of work to do before it even gets to this point. But if you do look to what else is going on in the Eastern Conference, Philadelphia's already through. The Celtics are about to go through. The Knicks might even be about to go through. So in terms of what you think the schedule is going to look like moving forward, I know Giannis has had a week off here. Well, not a week off, a week of treatment and rehab. But the Knicks might be just waiting for you. And you might get to the end of this series, which, to me, if the Bucks are going to win, are they going to win 3 straight? I don't know. I mean, it's hard to feel confident about that right now. You think that it's going to go to a game 7, so you're extending this series right to the end, and then you'll probably play the Knicks after one day off or something like that. It's going to be.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry to cut you off. I would say, because game 7 would be a week from today on that Sunday. And I would guess the Sixers-Celtics series would probably start that same day, just so you don't have that much of a gap. So, or maybe Monday, and then Bucks-Knicks, knock on wood, would be Tuesday. So you'd be right on that same treadmill of every other day playing.
So I mentioned this on the show last night, the postgame show. I rambled on solo if you want to go back and check that out. If you missed that show, there's some real great stuff. But I said, strap yourself in, because we've been here before. We know that the playoffs is some serious ups and some serious downs as well. We've been through it before. We've seen this team behind in series, and it doesn't make you feel any better about it at the time. But it's starting from the first round. The Bucks are in an absolute grind already. I want to ask you a question, Justin, about Giannis as we continue on this conversation now and we look ahead to game 4. Do you think the Bucks are missing him more on offense or defense? And the answer might be both, but we want to dive into that a little bit next after I talk about our friends at Built Bar, because if you're a little down on energy and need a snack, but you want to take care of yourself right now, if you're a Bucks fan, you should just be eating Built Bar, because it's a delicious snack and it's healthy and tasty which is ridiculous combo. You don't see that a lot. But what makes Built Bars so good? They're covered in 100% dark chocolate, real chocolate, that is. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, cookies and cream as well. I'm not sure how they do it, but only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein. So get all those delicious flavors at built.com, or go to Walmart, or go to Sam's Club. And you can pick up all those flavors. But the benefit of going to Walmart or Sam's Club is you can chuck it straight in the car and get stuck into it. You don't have to wait for delivery. So make sure you do that if you've got one of those outlets right near you. Grab a 13-bar box with the hit flavors: brownie, batter, puff, and churro puff. You can thank me for that later. That's Built Bar. Just a delicious, delicious product. All right. We thank you for making Locked On Bucks your first listen today. And for the everydayers, we'll be back tomorrow with a post-game show. Hopefully it's a fun post-game show, but hey, you tell me how you're feeling if you're confident about this Game 4 game. Let us know in the YouTube comments how you're feeling ahead of this one and everything we've discussed tonight. What the heck is going on with Giannis? Drop us all your thoughts and feelings ahead of this game. So I teased this just before the break there, Justin. So, the interesting thing is, and it's such a small sample, and both teams are shooting really well from three. I know the Bucks certainly gave up the ball a little bit too much in Game 3, which was problematic. But if you just look at the offensive rating for the Bucks, 116.8, I mean, they've scored at a decent rate so far this series. Unfortunately, the Miami Heat, who were the 25th ranked offense in the regular season, have the best offensive rating out of all teams in the postseason so far, 123.5. That is not good enough.
Yeah, and I saw this yesterday during the game and thought, well, that kind of matches the eyeball test and doesn't seem good. But I was trying to find it as you were talking. Nate Duncan had tweeted yesterday during the game, Bucks have and this was at some point in the first half, Bucks have a 101 offensive rating, despite shooting 12 of 23 on threes. I mean, that is almost impossible to do, to have an offensive rating that low when you're shooting better than 50% on your threes. So it speaks to where the struggles were elsewhere. I mean, Bucks weren't getting to the free throw line, and we've talked about this a bit. I think who was doing the game yesterday? I think
RJ made the
RJ made the point too about, Giannis. What he does is he gets teams into foul trouble, and then you get into the bonus and you get to the free throw line. The frustration of not getting the ball to Brook Lopez and trying to attack Miami around the paint. I mean, that was an area they really excelled at. And I think, again, in the first quarter, they had 10 or so points in the paint. It was very, very low. So there are those issues offensively. You pointed to what Chris Middleton did. He was very efficient offensively. I think everybody's going to point to the turnovers. And, at times it did seem like Chris was kind of playing a little out of control. But, when you saw what was going on around him, it just did also seem, not to make an excuse for him, but like, yeah, I got to take control here and I got to take over since nobody else is kind of doing that. But I still think it's defensively where you miss the most with not having Giannis out there, because Miami too, with the way that their defense plays and how much they play zone, not that they're, Giannis stompers as we've heard in the past, but they're better equipped than some teams to do that with how they can pack the paint and play that zone defense, and even guys like Bam Adebayo to slow him down a little bit. And it's, Game 2 without Giannis, where you were just moving the ball and spreading it around the perimeter, that you can find holes in this zone and take advantage. Defensively is the issue where, with Wesley Matthews out, which we didn't mention either, again, so 3 straight games that he's going to miss. You take that off the board, you take Giannis off the board. As good a job as Drew Holiday has done, Jimmy Butler's hit some tough shots over him, and he's not making it impossible for Jimmy Butler as Giannis did 2 years ago. And the other trouble is, there was a couple of sequences yesterday where I suppose, short of saying, Drew, you got to play 48 minutes, I don't know what other options Bud has, but you saw some of the lineups the Bucks had on the floor, and at times for a couple of minutes, there was nobody that was really a viable option to defend Jimmy Butler. And you were kind of tasking Chris Middleton with it to say, hey, sorry, you got to take on Jimmy Butler because Drew's out there on the bench getting a breather, and we got nobody else at this point. So that's why I think defensively is where you miss the most from Giannis. And I still think it was just a ridiculous notion that was brought up after Game 1 that Tyler Hero's absence is going to be bigger than Giannis's absence because, look, if you told the Miami Heat you're going to lose Tyler Hero or we'll take away Giannis, but you'll lose Tyler Hero and you're up 1-0 or we'll take away Giannis, Miami's going to say, hey, fine, take Tyler Hero and give me the game.
Yeah, they would. But again, I've pushed back on this a couple of times. Like, if you say, okay, well, you're going to lose Tyler Hero, the offense has stunk all season long, and you're going to have to rely on Victor Oladipo and Duncan Robinson to pick up the slack, then yeah, that's why you can sit back and say, I can see why that was being said because of the depth of the Bucks. But
yeah,
you can only take the small sample. And so far, the Miami players have stepped up to the plate and the Bucks role players haven't.
I can see the logic, but again, it's two ends of the floor for Giannis, whereas Tyler Hero is certainly not out there. And, the other thing is the Bucks, I think I saw it one time in the regular season. That was the first in the Mike Budenholzer era where they were attacking guys and attacking matchups in that game against the Sixers. It's just not how the offense operates. So the other part of it is, you can say, well, you don't have Tyler Hero out there to attack. Well, the Bucks probably weren't going to attack him anyway. Duncan Robinson's the same conversation, and we haven't really seen the Bucks go at Duncan Robinson and attack him. You would think maybe that's one of the adjustments, but it's not even close just because of Giannis and the fact that, as we just mentioned, especially if you don't have Wesley Matthews and Jay Crowder hasn't been the guy on either end of the floor that you were hoping to get, at least in this series, that you're not left with very many viable options defensively on Jimmy Butler. And that may be even bigger than the absence of Giannis's offense.
So I can understand why there's frustration from Bucks fans in terms of, like, people try and dive into the X's and O's and, this is what you should be doing this one. But I think also we've seen it throughout the season, and I haven't been too stressed about it because this is a veteran team. They're an older team. They can generally turn it on and off, their intensity and the energy that they play with. And I think if you watch game 1 and game 3 and then compare it to game 2, why was it so different? Like, why do you have to be down in a series to all of a sudden be like, all right, we're going full intensity? So that was the thing to me. If you look at, and it skewed a little bit game 2, the shooting numbers, because I had people say, well, they pushed back on Sean Rochester, who we had here, who covers the Heat. And he said, well, the Heat didn't shoot well in game 2. And they look at the numbers and they said, well, they did shoot well. The fourth quarter, they put up a bunch of points when the game was over that skewed that. But overall, they didn't shoot the ball well through the first 3 quarters. But they're 66 points at the rim. And they're 66% at the rim and 60% in the paint overall. And game 1 and game 3, there has just been an ease and a space that they've been allowed to operate with, which is just unacceptable.
50% or better in each of the games this series from the field, and I think 44% or better in every game from 3 too, which just, when you heard some fans say, hey, game 1, Miami's not going to shoot 60% from 3 for the series. Maybe it was just the experience from last year against Boston, where I think a lot of fans would say, yeah, probably not, but can they shoot 40%? Even if they shoot 35%, that's going to be problematic.
All right. Well, we could probably bang on about this over and over, but hey, let's save some storylines for the post-game tomorrow based on what we see. As I said, we'll be waiting all night and through the day if you're in the US, waiting to hear anything on Giannis. My belief is you're probably not going to find out until warm-ups. Does he come out at the usual time? I would follow everyone that's covering the team, Justin included, at TMJ Garcia there to get the latest. And as I said, listen to the Bucks radio broadcast. Download the SXM app, search Bucks, and you'll hear that. And for the everydayers, we'll be back tomorrow. We really appreciate the support. Make sure you subscribe, drop a like, and definitely drop a comment because there are so many interesting storylines to talk about. Surely the Bucks aren't where we would hope they would have been at this point in the series, but there's plenty to talk about. And as I said, feel free to just vent. Justin, you dust yourself off. Get ready for another broadcast tomorrow. And all I can say is all the best.
Thank you. And before people scream, I tried to kind of stay away from Twitter today and missed the update. But as we said, we assumed it wasn't good for Victor Oladipo. And I do see I think it was a patella tendon. So he is done for the remainder of the playoffs, obviously, which no surprise when you saw it happen in real time.
Yeah, no. That's a blow. And he's obviously had enough injuries over the time. So that sucks. For him, no doubt. And I think generally a pretty likable guy, someone we've discussed, would he be an option to come here over the years as well? So that's a shame. Another injury for the Heat. There's been so many injuries across the NBA in the postseason so far, and that can tilt things. We're living it right now if you're a Bucks fan, but we'll see if they can square things up. If not, they're going to be right on the edge of elimination, which is a shocking storyline. So we'll be back post-game. Make sure you join us. For Justin and myself, we'll catch you guys tomorrow.